5, so we only have one more after this, and we're going to be going over fingerprints. So yeah. Next week we're probably gonna do like an interactive thing. I'm thinking of maybe doing like a kind of like an escape room, like Google form. I don't know if you guys have done stuff like that before, but then I'll like include stuff and then you guys can work through it, and then like it won't let you go to the next question unless you get it right. And there'll be some like fun stuff in there, I think. Hopefully it works out. Yeah. Okay. So fingerprints are the things on your fingers and on your hands. And I'm pretty sure like different animals also have fingerprints, like dogs have their like paw prints, and they also have like those like ridges on their paws that we use to identify different fingerprints. So the process of identifying people differently using fingerprints was first coined by Francis Galton, I believe. And yeah, he just like came up with the way to like look at fingerprints and like notice they were different on each individual, and then like use it to identify different people. And what's really cool about this is like last week we talked about DNA, right? And for identical twins, they still have the same DNA. So how do we tell the difference of whether it's this twin or this twin? So that's when you like fingerprint can be used, because twins will not have the same, well, probably not have the same uh, fingerprint. So statistically, about 1 in 64 billion people share the same fingerprint. And currently on our Earth, there are about 8 billion, 9 billion people, I think. So very likely there's no two people who share the same fingerprint on our Earth. But you might share a fingerprint with some dead person, I guess, that lived like thousands of years ago. Yeah, I don't think so. Um, yeah, because there's only like 8 billion now. And maybe in the past, they probably haven't looked at like every single person who's ever lived, but I guess there's no one. Yeah, I guess we don't know. Like there technically could be. So yeah. So the purpose of fingerprints, more specifically, is that they allow you to like pick things up. Like if your finger was all smooth, it would be much harder to pick things up with your fingers. And I think that's like um how fingerprints are developed. As you're a baby, you like are like pushing against things, holding things, and that's how fingerprints first developed. So fingerprints are made up of a ton of ridges. Um, if you guys like look, it's like small like little bumps on your fingers. It's not just like lines or like bumps. And they kind of like rise up and down, and then the ridges are the parts that go up. And then one important part of fingerprints we're going to talk about today are deltas. And deltas are labeled like in this diagram. You can see that there's this like triangle looking thing. It's like a point of like where the lines go different directions. And usually your fingerprint will have like, usually they'll have some of them on there. So yeah, and hopefully today we can each see like what kind of fingerprints you have, because that's pretty fun. Okay. So here are the different types of fingerprints. Um, Arch, loop, and whorl. So an arch is when it comes in from one side and goes out the other side. So basically, like you'll have one ridge and it goes through one side and up the other. And usually there's like a tiny little like bump at the top. And we'll go more into depth about like different types of arches and stuff, because that's like something there is. And then loops are like definitely the most common type of fingerprint. And I have 10 loops. Like all my fingerprints are all loops. So you can like look at it. And yeah, so what will happen is that there's gonna be one delta, so one like triangle looking thing. And then you're gonna have one ridge that enters this on one side and exits on the other side. So like here you can see it goes in this side and it comes back out this side. And then the last type is a whorl, and there's going to be two deltas. You can't really see it here, but it should be one right here and one right here, and it'll make a little circle thing. Okay. If you guys want to try right now, try to like identify which kind you have. I had someone say they have all of them. That's super cool. I wish I had all of them. I literally just have loops, so let me know what you guys have. Arch on the thumb. That's pretty cool. Yeah, my thumb is just a loop. Actually, this looks kind of like an arch. Maybe it is an arch. I know I don't have any whorls though. Those are cool. Loops. All loops like me. I feel like that's super common. Like, wait, let me look up the statistics. Okay, so 65% of fingerprints are loops, 30% are whorls, and arches are only 5%. So I guess if you have an arch, that's pretty special. Yeah. Okay. So loops, definitely a lot of them.
Is it normal, like on one of my index is like a whorl and on the other it's a loop?
Yeah, I think that's pretty normal. Like it doesn't really match up on either side of your finger. It's kind of random. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's normal. Is anyone else's like that? They have like different ones on each side. I honestly can't tell if my thumb is a arch. This side is a loop, but this side might be an arch. So they're all different on your hands. It isn't like we're gonna coordinate or something. Okay. So next we're gonna be talking about the different types of arches. So one side is like this is a plain arch and it kind of just like makes a small little bump. And then tented arches, it makes like a point, like a spike or a tent, like when you go camping, those kinds of tents, and it like goes up like that. So that's why they're called tented arches and it creates a spike. Eleanor, do you know what kind, if you have a plain arch or a tented arch?
Not sure. I think like I have plain.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know. They're pretty different, but it's just cool to know. Yeah. Okay. And then next we have loops. So this is a more close-up image of a delta, and it comes from right here. And loops, remember, go in one side and out another. And how this works is it depending on which side it opens to, it's like different. So for example, I'm pretty sure opens right. Okay, so if it opens to the right, that's your ulna bone is right here, and then your radial bone is here. So when you put your finger down and it opens to the right side, that's a wait, let me just make sure. I think it's like if you look at it and it points toward the right, it's an ulnar loop. And then if you look at it and it points towards the left, it's a radial loop. So it's kind of different here because you place your finger down and the fingerprint down is like this. So it looks like it does open to the right. Wait, this opens to the right here, but it should open to the left side to be your ulna bone, and the right side is your radial, because radial is towards your pinky, and then ulnar is towards your thumb. So like if you're looking at your hand like this, the ulnar loop will point towards the right if you use your right hand, and you point towards the right, and a radial loop will open towards the left. So that's how those work. It's a little confusing, but you don't have to know it super well. If it points towards each other, I think those will be the same, because see, if you are like this bone and this bone is the same. So like your hands are mirrored. So they should be this the same, I believe. Okay. So, okay, wait. Just kidding. I think I messed it up. Um, okay, this is your hand. Ulna is on the pinky, radial is on the thumb. So if it opens towards your pinky while you face at it, it's your ulnar loop. If it opens towards your thumb, it's your radial loop. Cool. I don't know, that's super confusing. You don't have to memorize it. I'll put it on the side so it's more clear. Okay. Next, we have whorls. So there's, as you can see, a ton of different types of whorls. So the two like main like whorl types are the plane whorl and the central pocket whorl. And you can see right here, they like drew a little circle and a line. So how this works is you're going to look at the biggest possible like circle that the ridge makes. So right here, like you can see there's a ton of circles, and then here is the last circle, and then on the outside it like makes like this kind of shape. It doesn't make like a circle anymore. So that's like what you're gonna draw. And then you're gonna draw a line between the two deltas. So there's a delta right here and a delta right there. And you make a line. And if the circle and the line intersects, then it's a plane whorl. And like here, if it doesn't intersect, it's a central pocket whorl. So yeah, usually a central pocket whorl might be a little bit smaller of the circles. So yeah. And then you have a double loop whorl. And this one is like a loop basically. Like here there's a loop, and it would be like a whole fingerprint, but then it's like, nope, there's another loop over here. So it kind of self-explanatory, the name. There's two loops, so it's a double loop whorl. And yeah, so it forms one fingerprint, but there's two deltas, and that's why it's called a whorl, because all whorls have two deltas while loops have one delta. And then an accidental whorl is basically like this. It's like anything that doesn't like isn't really anything else. So this one, I think it kind of looks like a brain. And here there's like a delta-ish thing here, a delta there, a delta there. And if it has like three deltas, we haven't talked about anything with three deltas. So it's just an accidental whorl. So maybe it was trying to be a regular whorl and then something happened. So it's like accidentally something else. And these I think are super rare. So like you're not going to get a double loop whorl or an accidental whorl, but I don't know. Do any of you guys have these ones? That would be super cool. No, that's kind of normal, I would assume, because not that many people have them. Which ones? Like a double loop whorl or an accidental whorl? These are not very common. They kind of look like they just messed up on your fingerprint, but It's actually super cool. I think super unique. Not that many people have it. I'll give you a chance to look. See if you guys can identify them now. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people have double loop whorls or accidental whorls. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's see if you guys can identify these. So, what is a? You can just give me one of the three like main types you guys want. Who knows what it is? Whorl. Yes, it's a whorl. You can see it makes a big circle, so that's a whorl. What is B? B is a little harder to see. Anyone have a guess? Any guesses? Loop? Yep, it is a loop. So you can kind of see how the ridges come in this side and go out the same side. But I don't know. It kind of looks like a double loop, like one here and then one here. But I would say loop. Loop is a good one. Okay. What is C? C isn't that bad, I think. Look at this part. Whorl? Not quite.
Like it looks like an arch, but like
Are you looking at this part?
um like the outer part.
This part?
No, the big
This.
bump.
Oh, this one?
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, this one is an arch. This one's definitely an arch.
But and the E.
E is, oh yeah, these are both arches. Like this one would be a tented arch. This one is a plain arch. You can see the difference. But yeah, those are both arches. And this one should be a loop because it goes in the side and out this side. And then have a delta right there. Does anyone have any questions about this or anything I've come? Oh, anything about the
like your fingerprints, like they go like all the way, like even on the like the whole hand. Like, are there any specific names for those?
I know you can kind of see it on your like hand too. I don't know. I don't think so. No one really uses those. Maybe it's like hard to like identify because like you don't know
But
which.
like there are a lot of deltas on them.
Hmm. Yeah, I see that too. I don't know. I've never really heard about anyone using like palm prints to like call them names, but there probably is. Let's see. Hmm. There might be. I only see stuff about like, the lines on your hand. I know people do stuff about that, but I don't know. Maybe there is stuff about like the actual like ridges and stuff on your palm too. But yeah, I can look at that more too. Okay. So fingerprint identification, there's this thing called the Automated Fingerprint Identification System or AFIS. And what it does is it like reads, classifies, matches, stores fingerprints. And this is how you like catch a criminal basically. And you could it like stores the fingerprints of a ton of like criminals or something. And then if you like find a fingerprint at a crime scene, you can like put it into this database and it'll like read it and like match it to like any fingerprints it has, and you can see like who the suspect is. Oh, yeah. And that's why it works with a lot of criminal justice agencies to like catch criminals. Yeah. Okay. And then there's um fingerprint ridge types. And so this is like stuff you'll see on your fingerprint. It's like more small and hard to notice. But here's just like some things. I guess this is like what a delta looks like the line of a delta. Like hooks, eye, dot, these things, whatever. Um, yeah, just good to know. Probably don't really need to know this, but here's a fingerprint and you can look at it more closely. So these are all the ridges and it's like, oh, a crossover. So it like crosses like that. Usually they don't do that. A core is like the very inside of a like a loop where it like makes that little curvy thing. A verification is where like two of them combine into one, or like one goes into two. Ridge ending, it like stops there. Island is a tiny little dot. Delta, pore, yeah. Also it talks about a scar. So like I guess the only way you can really alter your fingerprint is if you get a scar. Like if I like cut my finger and it like bleeds and then it heals up and there's a scar there, and then maybe you just get rid of the fingerprint there and you're never gonna have a fingerprint there ever again. So that's kind of, I guess that's also a way you can identify people. Like if they have a scar on their finger and then you see their fingerprint and it's like missing some of the ridges there, that's how you can identify them. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, so say you get to a crime scene and you're trying to find the fingerprints. So these are like the types of fingerprints you could find. So you have latent fingerprints, and this is like the invisible ones. So like you're like, how am I supposed to see the invisible ones? Well, these are called latent prints, and they're usually from sweat or oil on your skin surface. So there's always going to be something on your hand. And if I like press it down on my computer right here, like I can't see anything, but there's still a fingerprint there. So it's pretty much naked to the human eye, so you can't really see anything. But yeah, so there's different ways that scientists can look at these fingerprints. Um, for example, they can use a black powder and lift it with clear tape. And this is something that you could probably, I don't know. I feel like I've done this before in some class somewhere, but yeah, like you can put your fingerprint on like a glass or something, and then they use this black powder and brush it on, and then you take a tape and you lift it up.
Once there was like a detective or something, like a professional that came into my class, and like we did that.
Really?
Like we used powder and tape.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they use that like in like professional like environments, definitely. So like that is something they would use. So yeah, they like dust it with black powder and lift it up. And then you can see it on the tape, like what kind of fingerprint it is. And then some other things they use is this chemical called ninhydrin. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it before, but what they do is they put it on top of the fingerprint and it reacts with like the amino acids that are like in the like fingerprint you put down with like the sweat and oil. There's going to be some like proteins in there, and it reacts with that. And then it will turn it purple, like this picture right here. So basically you put the ninhydrin on and then the ridges just turn purple, and then you can clearly see the ridge patterns and stuff, and that's super cool. Um, And then there's some other things, fluorescent dye, magnetic powder. I assume they work in a similar way. You probably like brush it on or something. Or magnetic powder, probably you put a magnet on the bottom and it sticks to like the fingerprint part. I'm not really sure how that one works, but I think these two are like main ways they use it in the lab. Okay. Next is patent prints. So these are just basically fingerprints you can see. So like someone got hurt at a crime scene, there's blood on your hands, and then you put it somewhere. That's going to be a patent print because it's super easy to see. It's actually like has like material on it, and you stick it to something, and then that creates the print. So this is like blood. Yeah.
But sometimes, like, if there's too much blood or like too much of something, like it won't be as clear.
Yeah, because then it'll like smudge. Like you can kind of see it here, I think. Like right here, there's just like a ton of blood, and then it just like forms together. You can't see the ridges anymore. So that'll definitely happen in a scenario, especially if there's a ton of blood. But yeah. Here, I don't know what this is, but like if you for fun want to like use like an ink pad and put your fingerprint in the ink and then stamp it onto the paper to like see what different kinds of fingerprints you have, you'll be creating a patent print. And wait, going back to latent prints, I'm pretty sure if you like put your finger on like a glass or something, it'll stay there for like a long time. It was like years probably. So yeah, there's that's going to be a latent print because you can't really see it unless there's like dirt and stuff on your fingerprint, then it's going to turn into like a patent print. So yeah. And then the last type of fingerprint you're going to have is plastic, and it's basically like an impression into something. Like you can see in this picture, like you're putting your fingerprint into, I think that's clay or something. So usually it's like wax, soap, tar, fresh paint, anything that you're gonna like press your finger into, and it's gonna like hold the shape of your finger, and it's gonna like mold into like your finger. So it's easily seen by human eye, and it doesn't need any excess processing like latent prints need when you like brush stuff on them to like be able to see it.
Like, what is the type of liquid people use, like, at the police station, like, to put your fingerprint?
They use a liquid to put your fingerprint.
I don't know.
I don't know. Oh, maybe that's kind of like an ink or something, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think now though, a lot of places have like electronic like scanning basically. So like, I don't know if you guys have been to like Disneyland and stuff, and you like scan your pass and then they like put your fingerprint there, just like make sure that you're like the only one using your pass. So like you put your fingerprint there, like there's just like a thing and you just put your finger there, and then it's like an electronic thing that scans it. And it's the same for the DMV, like where you get your like driver's license and like passport identification and everything. Like most stuff I think is like electronic nowadays. So don't really need all these special things. Okay. So yeah, like ornaments, if you want to make an ornament for Christmas for your mom or dad and want to stamp like all your family members' fingerprints on there, that's probably going to be like a plastic fingerprint if you want to make it like super in-depth, and or you can put on paper, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna talk about like shoe prints, but I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. You just like match up the correct shoe to the print. And then there's also like tire tracks. They're all pretty much the same as fingerprinting. It'll be usually more like a plastic print or like a plastic print, like if you're walking in mud or something, but it can't be too mushy or else there's not going to be a print. But like if you're walking in dirt and it leaves like a plastic print where it leaves an indent into the dirt, it'll create a plastic footprint, and then you can match it up to the different types of shoes, or like a tire print if you're like driving a certain car that has like certain tire tread, and that will go through the mud the same way. Okay, and then I kind of want to talk about chromatography because I just think this is super cool. Um, it's not super related to fingerprints, but this is like a way of separating like a component into like different layers kind of, so you can see what it's made up of. So for example, like I'm at a crime scene, and there's like a note written there, and it's saying like, oh, you have to give me like $5,000 or else I'm not going to give this thing back to you. And then you're like, I need to know who wrote this note. So then you take the pen and you like perform a chromatography on it. And usually we would use probably like paper chromatography for this. And what it does, it like separates out the ink in the marker that they use, or pen or something. And then using that, you can like match it to like other pens and then see which pen they use to write the note. So how this works is, I don't know if you guys have learned about polarity in molecules, but some things are more soluble in water and some things are less soluble. So if it's more soluble in water, it's going to rise more with the water. And if it's less soluble, it's going to rise less. So it's going to only go to here. And then like the ones that are more soluble are going to rise more. And usually these are used to separate like inks, dyes, anything that's like soluble in water, basically. Okay, and then you have liquid chromatography, and it's used probably when you have like a liquid that you need to separate. So this says like plant pigments, so it'll separate into like these different sections when you pour it in. Thin layer chromatography usually uses like a glass tray, and it'll separate like pigments, chemicals, other things. Experiment with salt, alcohol, sugar. Is that like a liquid chromatography kind of, where like the different liquids like separated by layer and like density and stuff? Because that's pretty cool too. Yeah. So like that, how that works is like alcohol has a super low density, so it's lighter than water, and it's going to separate from the water. And sugar is dense, so it's going to settle to the bottom, and it's going to create different layers. Like I've definitely seen that done too. I've probably done it before. Yeah, so that's kind of like a liquid chromatography. And then lastly, you have a gas chromatography, which is going to show you a little graph thing like this. Um, and usually, like this part, these peaks are where the gasoline is going to show up, or not gasoline, sorry. It's gonna show like where the different compounds are. So this is like a separation of gasoline, I believe. So there's like some of this substance here, this substance, and it just like breaks it apart and separates it by the compound when it's like mixed together. So that's okay. Anyone have any questions?